Ryan, can you introduce yourself? Tell our audience who you are and what you do.
Sure, Ryan Windsor. I'm the CEO of AlcatraMedia since 1999, and we sell sightseeing tours in 450 destinations around the world.
Wow, I'm on your site right now, AlcatraMedia.com, and I am seeing so many different sites on here. How does somebody decide where they want to go?
Well, many of our consumers will find us by searching on the web. They might search in a city or state-specific search, something like San Francisco Tours or New York Tours. But in that case, we also have reserve123.com, which is more of a catch-all.
So when I come to this site, this gives me kind of everything in one place that you do?
Absolutely.
Cool. So all of these tour buttons that I'm clicking on here on your site, I mean, I can see they're all the same structure. So this is all based on the same thing. You just changed the look and feel, and all of these are actually your sites?
Absolutely. They're all our sites. We have 2,600 registered domain names. We operate actively in about 450 different markets around the world. We're heavily concentrated in the U.S., but we've got between 11,000 and 12,000 different products that we sell. Of course, it started in San Francisco, then I went to San Diego, Vegas, L.A., Seattle, eventually Hawaii, and then I had a staff and said, let's blanket the globe, and that was kind of how it changed. So, for many years it was just me and a cell phone and a computer. So now there's about 75 people in Atlanta. And what's making an impact with CMIT and how we're minting more money as the result of the switch? Just to give you a quick overview, I was looking at my sales for 2010 and comparing them to 09. Obviously, 09 was not our best year, but I saw in January we had a decrease, which was really upsetting. 2010 we were down over 2009, but then in February we saw a nice boost. We were up 9%. March we were up 12%. April we were up 12%. Keep in mind the economy was going really well at that time. Then May we started having some issues. There was the Nashville flooding. The economy kind of took a little dive. The volcanic ash hit. We had a lot of refunds due to that. We only saw a 9% increase. So we went 9, 12, 12, 9. Then on May 24th, CMIT enters the picture with all new computers. And so the last, 6 days or so of May, we had that benefit. But again, we had such a bad month, you can't reflect it. But then June hits. We just finished June. We got a whole month to look at. 13% increase over 09. We were on the decline in May, and we found 4% magically in June.
How long have you actually been with CMIT?
Only since the 24th. We contracted in early May, and they installed the computers in late May on the 24th, and it was an overnight success. The very next day after the computers went in, we saw a 20% spike in sales, and we pretty much saw that through that remaining part of May. And then June, we've had some challenges, with Nashville being down and with the volcanic ash. It's been never-ending one after another. But June, we still managed to see that big increase. And I know why that increase is there. It's CMIT. And here's how I can tell you. First of all, I called my manager 5 minutes before we got on the phone, the call center manager who handles all the inbound calls, and I said, what is happening with call volume? She said, we're able to take so many more calls per day, it's not even funny. And that's what's translating into the additional sales, because if you call in and you end up on hold, and you hold for 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 minutes, and maybe you give up and you hang up and you try back again and you get in the queue and you eventually go to the next website or whatever, I'm losing a ton of business there. Well, prior to having the new computers installed, I wasn't aware of this until, maybe April. Agents would have to sit for 30 seconds at a time to load one page. Well, they got 8 windows open, and they're loading pages all over the place because maybe they're taking a call in Chicago 1 minute and a call in Atlanta the next. And they got to have both websites up because if someone has a specific question like, does the Atlanta trolley tour pick up at the Biltmore Hotel, they got to be able to pull that up because not all of my agents are going to be able to memorize every detail on 11,000 different products. So having said that, not only is it making my staff look better, because they're able to get faster answers and they're not having to delay and indicate that maybe they aren't an expert on the question that's being asked, but they're getting to more calls a lot faster, and their morale is up. So I asked my manager on a scale of 1 to 100, how much of a difference is this making since the 24th? Her answer, 99.
Wow.
She said it's remarkable. It's like night and day. The staff is no longer complaining. The staff is no longer waiting and losing time. The calls are flying in. The sales are going up. Everything has improved as the result of this. Everything.
You said that they used to have to wait for how long for a screen to come up?
Sometimes as much as 30 seconds.
And how long is it taking now?
2 to 3.
Oh, wow.
Our computers were from 2003 and 2004, and nobody had really vocalized how bad they were because of the '09 we had. I think they were probably okay in '08 because we had a great year. '09, the recession, everything slowed down. We actually had to lay a few people off in '09. Thank God we hired them all back in '10. It was just a seasonal thing, but, I didn't realize how dreadful it really was. Some people's computers would actually crash, so they'd have to reboot the computer just to get the customer an answer. The other thing is it's dropped our hold time, and everybody who's sitting on hold is sitting on hold on a toll-free paid line. So our phone bill is coming down, even though our sales are going up and we're answering more calls, because instead of having 20 people in queue sitting on hold, we have 10, and instead of holding for 8 minutes, they're holding for 2.
It must have been a pretty big investment, though, to change all of those computers.
Yeah, in the office, I think it was about, I'm trying to remember, I think it was about $30,000 in the office. And then in San Francisco, I spent a comparable amount on all of our servers and new switches and new load balancing equipment and software and that kind of stuff. So I actually, put a nice little chunk in, hoping that we would see a 1%, 2%, 4% increase. I didn't expect it, though. But it's there. It's there. It's paid for itself. I called Doug, I think, 2 days after the install and said, Doug, you really, really misrepresented your numbers when you sent me this proposal. And he said, hopefully in a good way. And I laughed and said, absolutely in a good way. You said it was going to take me like 150 days to pay off the investment. It's already paid off in 2 days.
Oh, my God. That's a substantial investment, $30,000 at a time when the economy is still tight and a lot of uncertainty, obviously, that happens in your business. What gave you the confidence to work with CMIT? What did they put in front of you? How did they help you understand what was going to happen here?
Once I met Doug Bates over the phone, exchanged emails, had him go and meet key members of the staff, everybody had the same reaction. I said, from an email and phone perspective, this guy's incredible, and he knows his stuff, and he's going to make a huge impact. What do you think on a personal level? And everybody said, it's just amazing. I say we hire him, but we don't know what it's going to cost you. And I said, don't worry about that. I'll take care of that. So when he sent over the proposal, and it was so in-depth with exactly how they were going to do it, what they were going to do, how long it was going to take, when I should see a return on my investment, how it's going to impact the company, meaning 30-second load times versus 2-second load times. Here's how much staffing time you're going to free up per week, per month, per year. Oh, and that's another thing. Our managers don't have to troubleshoot computers anymore. So I freed up probably 20 hours a week of management time that was being wasted on my printer doesn't work, that kind of stuff. So toss that in there. But moving back to answer your question, when he broke all that down for me, I just said, gosh, based on what it's going to cost us, yes, it is an upfront fee, but this is 3 years worth of computing power we're going to get. That's my goals. Let's get 3 years out of this. And we'll have a management contract for the whole 3 years, so we don't have to worry about it. If we can get 3 years worth of growth and benefit from it, that's a lot of time to make that money back. And because we're a seasonal business and we were already into May, and the money really flows heavily from April to September, I just said, let's go.
Now, when they came in to do this, it would seem like it could be a potential nightmare and a big interruption of your business. How did you switch over from these old systems to the new systems and make sure they work so smoothly with that big an operation? That would seem like a nightmare.
Well, I think it would have been a total nightmare. I don't think. It would have been a total nightmare had we tried to do it ourselves. That was a given, and I think everybody in the office recognized that. I have some computer-savvy people that were there, and they were saying, gosh, I don't know how we're going to do this. We're going to do 5 computers at a time. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Well, when CMIT came in, they said, listen, we're going to do it on a Sunday because that's our slowest day of the week. And they were really kind. They said, we're going to bill you as if it was a normal weekday. So, we got a real benefit in not having to pay overtime. And they came in on a Sunday, and I want to say they started at 8 a.m., and by 5 p.m., all of the new terminals, the new server, everything was up, running, and fully functional. And as far as sales that day, we were not heavily impacted. It just didn't happen. They came back the next morning. They wrapped up a few loose ends. By Monday at noon, you would have never known we had gone through anything, other than the fact that all the employees were jumping up and down for joy, that their computers were so much faster. And again, I tell you, I checked sales at the end of the day on Monday, and that was the first day, and we were up 20% that day. So, of course, I'm just beside myself with excitement, thinking that this was the magic missing piece of the puzzle. And it's held true. I mean, our sales have been steadily up since that day. Well, and here's another metric. May, we did 18,096 transactions. June, we did 24,404 transactions.
Wow.
So there was only a $400,000 difference in revenue there, but just a huge transaction increase. And what that tells me is that those additional calls that are being taken, those are the people who just have a quick question about their $34 trolley ticket. Because the people who are calling about the $1,000 Grand Ole Opry hotel package, they're going to hold, they're going to wait,
Right.
they're going to get the answers to their question. That's a commitment. But the $34 trolley, they could hang up and call someone else or just get it on the wharf or, whatever. But we're converting those now, and that's really helping.
Right. Well, plus, once they get in with that $34 ticket and you treated them well, they're more likely to come back to you for the next thing. But if you screw up the first time you touch a customer, you don't get a second chance in this economy.
No, you're absolutely right about that. I think the same holds true for if they don't get through within 2 minutes.
Right.
2 minutes is about the threshold on hold that people will wait. And after that, it's, should we try another site?
So tell me this. I mean, there are IT people out there like Doug who can make a computer sing. They can make the network work. They can make the software, do well, sit up and bark. I mean, but when it comes to being really a good strategic advisor who can look at your business and help you look down the line from a strategic sense, I know you haven't worked with him that long, but what do you get a sense of in terms of Doug Bates' ability to help you strategically?
Well, that's one of the things that really impressed me about Doug when I said he could stand on his own, because obviously a referral from Kevin and Melanie went a long way. But when Doug explained to me that he was a former CEO and that when he looked at business, he didn't look at it simply from a let's make the computer sing perspective, but how do we increase your bottom line? Where do we generate more revenue? How do we save money? That was the huge impact for me. So, like you said, we haven't worked together for a really long time, but you better believe I'm going to be going to Doug in the near future with more ideas and more things that we might be able to do to expand things.
Let me ask you about your customers, because ultimately all this stuff is great to make you more money, but how does it benefit your customer? I mean, what do you think the difference in your customer experience in, say, January, February, and March has been compared to your customer experience now?
There's a tremendous change in the customer experience in that they're no longer holding. The sites are running faster. Of course, that's relevant to the servers being replaced, but we notice a huge speed increase, especially on the secure socket layer forms. I think we speeded those up like 150%. So when you're actually in there placing the order, your time waiting while it processes the card and or processes the secure forms is so much faster that was one thing that we noticed, an increase in transaction amount just as soon as that hit. So holding less time in their ordering process, getting through the pages faster, these are the things that I think are making a big impact for the consumer. And I think that's why that transaction count jumped as dramatically as it did between May and June.
You've been very generous with your time, and I think we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Is there anything in general that you think people should know about Doug Bates and CMIT if they were looking for somebody to be their technology partner?
When you have a company like CMIT that has the different franchises nationwide, you really can't go wrong in that you've got a fantastic parent company that you can rely on, and they've got all of the internal resources. So if Doug Bates gets stuck, he can talk to a David Rivkin, or a David Rivkin can talk to a Doug Bates. But the fact that you have that networking within the corporation really speaks volumes to me, because there's never going to be any one person with every answer, and I recognize that. So being able to bounce it off a bunch of other qualified people is huge. And as far as Doug Bates, I can't imagine finding somebody any more knowledgeable and appropriate for the position that I hired Doug for than Doug. He just sings to me as far as his ability to look at something as a CEO as opposed to just somebody who wants to fix up the computers. That was what really made a difference for me, because I didn't look at it as, hey, we just got to speed up the computers. I looked at it as, when am I going to get paid back? How much of an investment am I going to have to make up front to generate what on the back end? What's it going to do for the morale of the company? What's it going to do for the consumers? I looked at all this, and Doug had all of that outlined before I asked. He had a presentation to me that outlined exactly where it was going to benefit me and how, and that just really impressed me, and I'm certain that he does that with every client. So the fact that I went into the process with eyes wide open, knowing exactly what I was going to get, and I just trusted Doug to do it, and he just did it. And it was so seamless and so simple, it made me wonder why I had never operated like this in the past. Why do I always try and take it on myself? Am I really saving any money? Historically, absolutely not.